Hey amazing hackers, I'm TORHAT from HM Cyber Academy. Today we'll be looking at unified box from tier 2 of starting point of HackTheBox. So initially we have to connect to VPN. So I've already done it. And next we need to spawn the machine. So this is its IP address. So let's say sudo nanozyshell rc. Change the IP address. Change my IP. And close it. Then you spawn a new shell and now everything is updated. Okay, so you can type echo $IP, you will get new IP, echo $my IP, you would get my IP. So the next thing is usually nmap. So nmap $IP and service version scan and default scripts run in all ports and only run the scripts on open ports. If ping scan doesn't work, then use no ping scan. Show the verbosity so that I can start pen testing right away. -- min rate will send 2000 requests per second to speed up the scan. Let's hit enter and I can see port 22 and port 8080. Port 22 is probably SSH. Port 8080 is probably HTTP. So why I'm saying it as HTTP is because sometimes instead of port 80 they try to use port 8080. Okay, and even for port 443, which is HTTPS, not HTTP. So for this people try to use 8443. It's just like 80 but it is 8080. Okay, so it's just like 443 but 8000 is added at the beginning. Okay, the scan is complete. Let's copy it from here and paste it over here. So there is port 22, okay, which is SSH. So what is next one? It is 6789. Interesting. Okay, 6789 is IBM DB2 admin. Okay, so basically there is some database that's running. Okay, cool. So the next thing is 8080 and this is probably HTTP, and as you can see it is HTTP proxy. Okay, so the next port is 8443. Okay, so this is an SSL version of Nagios. So this is basically a HTTPS server. Okay, so let's copy this and paste it over here. And as you can see, these are first 4 ports, right? So the HackTheBox is also asking for the first 4 ports. You can paste it over here and submit. What is the title of the software that is running on the port 8443? Let's go to 8443 and can you see anything? You can see something like unify. Looks like there is HTTP that's running and HTTP methods are listed over here. So you can use this port to directly open the HTTPS server. Okay, so let's copy this, paste it over here, followed by port 8443. Okay, if you hit enter, so it says bad request. This combination of host port requires TLS. So if you find this kind of error, then just go to URL and in the beginning you have to say https:// okay, so it requires https. So by default this runs on HTTP, so you have to convert it to HTTPS. Okay, if you hit enter, so you will get this kind of warning, but you have to just click on advanced and accept the risk and continue. Okay, after some time of loading, as you can see, it looks like some unify software. Okay, if you see the title over here, the title gives us unify network. Okay, so if you scroll down, so what is the software? It is unify network. Okay, so what is the version of the software that is running? So the version is 6.4.54. Submit. What is the CVE for identified vulnerability? So it looks like there is a CVE for this unify version. Okay, so let's copy the version and say unify network 6454 and CVE. Okay, so just highlight this by giving it double quotes so that exact string will be shown to us. Okay, and as you can see, it's another log4j on the fire. So let's click on this. So TLDR means too long didn't read. So as you can see, the CVE is CVE 2021 and 44228. Okay, so let's copy this and paste it over here, send it. So what protocol does JNDI leverage in the injection? So let's go back let's go to Peach Puzzles log4j unify. So there's not much information here except the exploit. Okay, so this particular JNDI will leverage LDAP server. Okay, so it is what's asked here. So it is LDAP server that we are currently leveraging. Okay, let's submit. Let's move to the next one. What tool do we use to intercept the traffic, indicating the attack was successful? So you can intercept this traffic in multiple ways. Okay, so you can intercept using Wireshark, you can intercept using TCP dump, but at the end there is P, so basically it's asking for TCP dump. So if you want to test it, you can go to the website and say ASDF, and you can click on remember me, but it's not necessary. So before you hit sign in, just intercept this traffic and also run TCP dump -I on 0, and you can use the port 389. So we'll use sudo just in case. Okay, so let's submit it, and it's asking for the password. Okay, so now it's listening, right? So we have to send something to port 389. Okay, so let's go here and click on sign in. Okay, we have this post request, and if you scroll down, you have all these options over here, right? So you can select this remember equals to true to input your payload. JNDI will saying Java to use JNDI lookup. Okay, so JNDI lookup will look up something that we mention over here. Okay, so we want to use LDAP protocol to leverage this log4j vulnerability. Okay, where do you want to connect using this protocol? We want to say my IP and paste it over here, and which port it is running. So it's 389, right? So we're running at 389 port. Okay, and followed by some distinguished name. Okay, so usually we use O equals to Tomcat. So let's send this and see if the server is able to interact with the local TCP port that we have mentioned over here. Okay, so let's forward it and intercept off. As you can see, we have successfully confirmed that Unify network is interacting with us. Okay, so this is just a confirmation, but this is not how you exploit to get a shell. Okay, what port do we need to inspect intercepted traffic for? So we said 389, right? So what port is the MongoDB service running on? Okay, so we don't know this yet if MongoDB is running or not. So let's go back. So to exploit this log4j, you have to go to this GitHub link. So the steps to exploit this vulnerability is given over here. Okay, so first of all, you need to check if you have Java 11 and also Maven. Okay, so just copy from here to here, and let's copy this and say sudo apt update, and the next step is sudo apt installed openjdk 11 and Maven. Okay, so submit, and if you go back, so the next step is this git clone, and then clone this repository and pip3 install requirements.txt. Okay, cool. So let's copy this, paste it over here and submit. So let it finish, and once it is done, just scroll down a bit and say mvn package futils rogue jndi. Okay, so copy this, and you need to be in the root log4j unify repository, and as you can see, we are already in that because we have already changed the repository over here. So just paste it and submit. So let it run, and let's see the next step. And this is the Docker install, so you just need to forget this one. We're not doing that. And this is the usage. Okay, so exploit.py, and then give the URL and the callback URL, which is our IP address and our port. Okay, so let's go back. Let's say python 3 and followed by exploit.py, and you have to give the URL, and this is the URL that we need to give, right? So https something something, and followed by the IP address and the port. Okay, so the IP address that we need to give is our IP address, so we can directly say $myip. For the port, let's say any port 8888. Okay, so we have been using 8888 a lot. Okay, to connect back to us, we have to use netcat listener on port 8888. Okay, so now it is running. So if you hit enter on the previous terminal, so as you can see, we have successfully connected. And if you type who am I'm Unify. Okay, so let's zoom in. So let's ask for which Python 3. So looks like Python is not installed here. Okay, so let's try Python, which Python 2. So there is nothing that's related to Python installed over here. Okay, so in this case, we cannot use the standard process that we've been using so far. So we cannot use this. So we need to come up with a new technique to spawn a shell. Okay, for that I can do shell equals to -bin/bash, because if you see echo $shell, this is bin sh. Okay, so if you want to see other shells, you can see /etc/shells. So these are the shells that are available. Okay, so I'm picking bash, changing the variable and running a script just after that. Okay, so script -q and /dev/null. So the script command is used to make a TypeScript record of terminal session, okay, which is this. It records everything displayed on the terminal, including the user inputs and program outputs. So this whole command essentially starts a new bash shell in a quiet script session. Okay, so let's paste it and hit enter, and now you got a bash shell. Okay, so let's see what we have. Okay, we have some things over here. So let's get the user flag. So first of all, we need to know which user is existing in home. So we have Michael. So we know that at home slash the username and followed by user.txt is where we actually save our user flags. Right, let's see if we can edit this file or bring some new files into this directory. Okay, to check that you have to say -al. So ls-al will give hidden directories or hidden files as well. Okay, so this is the current directory, and this current directory is owned by Unify. Okay, so I can read, write and execute on this directory, which means I can bring some new files into this directory. Okay, so let me check if we have wget. Okay, we don't have wget. Do we have curl? Okay, we have curl. So we can use curl to bring some files into this directory. First of all, this is a Linux machine, right? To escalate privileges using Linux, we can follow a privilege escalation awesome script called linpiece. Okay, so this is Linux privilege escalation awesome script. So we will send this script into this directory. Okay, so first of all, let's go to the main page, and if you scroll down, you see releases, and if you scroll down, you see linpiece.sh. Okay, so let's copy this. Let's go back to terminal. I don't have internet access from here, so I have to create a new terminal and say wget this. Okay, so now it's downloading. Once the download is completed, I will say python 3-m http.server. Okay, so currently I'm running a HTTP server in this location. So curl -O, which will output whichever we are downloading. And where are we downloading from? We are downloading from http:// and my IP, paste it over here, and port 8000 should be given as well. Okay, so port 8000, and in this location the file name is linpiece.sh. Okay, so copy this, paste it over here and send it. So now the file should be downloaded. If you type ls-la, you can see that that particular file exists over here. Okay, but we cannot execute this file because we don't have execute permissions. So let's give that execute permissions using chmod +x linpiece.sh. Let's hit enter, and now we have execute permissions. All we have to do is run this file. Okay, it's running. So let's zoom the terminal. Okay, so if you come to processes, crons, timers, services and sockets, you can check this cleaned processes section, and as you can see here, MongoD is running. Okay, some kind of Mongo daemon or Mongo daemon service is running here. Okay, and this service using a database is running on port 27117. So we need to copy this and save it in our notes. Okay, because this is really important. So basically there is a MongoDB service that is running on port 27117. So you can use this port to connect to the MongoDB service that's running locally. To do that, you can say Mongo, which is already installed in that server, and followed by this port. Okay, if you hit enter, okay, so now you are connected to a MongoDB server. You can say show databases, and as you can see, these databases are empty. So only database that contains some data is ACE. So you can use this database. Okay, use ACE. So now we are switched to the database ACE. Okay, so in MongoDB database, everything is denoted by DB. Okay, so DB means a database. So what you can do is you can ask it to show tables. So it has a list of tables over here. Admin looks like it might contain some admin's information, right? To see what's inside this admin's table, you have to say DB, which means this particular database, which is ACE. And in this ACE, we have to say admin. And in this admin, you need to find everything. Okay, so just dump everything inside this admin's table. Okay, so that's what we're saying. In MongoDB, we don't save them as tables, but we store them as JSON format. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. If I hit enter, I see everything in JSON format. Okay, so to show them in JSON format, just say db.admin.find. For each object, let's use print JSON format. So if you hit enter, so everything is now very clean and in JSON format. Okay, so let's scroll up and see what we have. The first object, which has the ID of this, is administrator. Okay, and this looks like X shadow is an entry for some kind of hash. So this can be a password. So let's copy this and paste it. So since we have access to this database and you can change any value in this particular database, we can change this X shadow. Okay, so to update this, we need to have certain format. We also need to generate our own password. Okay, so what we can do is mk password. So looks like we don't have this mk password tool, so let's install this. So this password which you are seeing here is basically SHA-12 password. Okay, so you can say mk password and use module SHA-512. So this is the password we want, and you convert this password, which is HM Cyber Academy, to a hash. So if you hit enter, you get this hash. So once you have the object ID and the new hash, so you can go back and say db.admin.update. You have to mention it in JSON format. The key is ID. So we are mentioning an ID so that we can identify a specific element. Okay, so object ID is this one. Okay, so paste it and close the bracket and close this bracket as well. Okay, so now this JSON is complete. Follow this with a comma and continue with which element you need to update. Okay, we need to use this variable called set to set certain value. Which key we are trying to manipulate? It is x_shadow. So this is the key that we are trying to manipulate. So the value is this one. Okay, so Control C, Control V, and once this is done, close this with this bracket which closes this bracket, and you need to give another flower bracket for this one. Okay, till here it is complete, and close this whole thing with this parenthesis. Okay, so once this is done, let's send it. So as you can see, we have modified one value. We have successfully updated X shadow of administrator. So to check that, you can go again. So db.admin.find, and you can see that administrator password is now changed. So the password is now HM Cyber Academy. So let's go back and say administrator. It's not admin, it's administrator. Mind this. The password is HM Cyber Academy. Let's submit, let it load. Hope I'm not intercepting anything. Okay, we have successfully logged in as administrator. So you can check some of these things, but first let's check some settings. Okay, so click on settings and let's go to site settings, and if you scroll down, okay, look at this. So SSH login is already enabled. So this is root. So we can log in to SSH as root, and this is the password. So not a crackable password for you 2022. So since port 22 is open, let's go back. Let's exit out of here, and exit out of here as well. So clear everything and say SSH root at $IP. It's asking to save the fingerprint. Let's say yes. What's the password? It's the most secure password, and submit. Okay. So now we are root. Let's type ls. I can see root.txt. Cat root.txt is this one. Okay. So let's go back to HackTheBox. What is the port? This is the ports that's running MongoDB server. What is the default database name for Unify applications? So for Unify applications, it was ACE. Okay. So we have a ACE database, which is unique and default for Unify applications. So this is where we logged in, right? What is the function we used to enumerate users within the database in MongoDB? We used db.admin.find, and this is what we used to enumerate all the users or all the objects, whichever you can call it. Okay, submit it. What is the function we used to update users within the database in MongoDB? So we used db.admin.update function. What is the password for the root user? So the password for the root user is this one. Okay, so submit user flag. The user flag is this one. Submit root flag. The root flag is this one. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.